Welcome to my students this basic mathematics online for 7th graders. Welcome guys. Let's begin our class. Hello. It's very important to begin to define what's a decimal point. What's the point? A point is a separator of numbers like we have here. We have two groups which are divided by this dot, the 0 and these other numbers to the left side. Here we have 1, 2, 3 decimal numbers. These decimal numbers depend on the position of its location in the place value. As we can see here in the whole value, we have the first, the tens, the hundreds, the thousands, 10,000, 100,000, millions, 10 millions, 100 millions. In the American system, remember that we use a decimal point, which in the Spanish system it's used as a comma. But now we have to remember that we have the point as a decimal one. And since we have to divide every three numbers to the left side, we are going to divide into tens, hundreds, thousands, and then we're going to continue a cycle. But what happens to the right side? In the right side, we have numbers which are smaller, and as you can see, we have the same tens, hundreds, thousands, 10,000, 100,000, millions, 10 millions, and billions. The only difference between these numbers, which are very small, is that they have the ending of th. Th is telling us that these are numbers that are less than 1. And the numbers which are bigger than 1 have not, and they don't have an ending like these numbers have in th. As a summary, we can see the numbers on the left, they end with s, like billions, 100 millions, 10 millions, millions, 100,000s, 10,000s, thousands, hundreds, and tens. However, numbers that are to the right of the decimal point, they have the THS ending, which is telling you that these numbers are decimal numbers. Of course, it's very important to know this important ending. Now we can see a number which has the decimal point as a separator from the whole numbers from the decimal numbers. If we see the expanded form of this number, we can see that 1 is a 100, it represents 100, 20 represents the tens, and 6 the ones. So the 126 could be represented by the addition of 100 plus 20 plus 6. But then we have to complete what's going to happen with the decimal point. The tens is going to be a 5 divided by 10, which is a fraction, and 3 is also an addition of a 3 hundredths, as you can see in the example. As you can see, 3 divided by tens. So the expanded form of a decimal number is given by the whole number and by the addition of these decimal parts. The tens is a number divided by 10. A hundred is a number divided by 100. If there would be another number here, it would be divided by 1,000 and so on. So it is expanded in terms of multiples of 10. To the right side, to the left side, you multiply by 10, by 10, and by 10. And from the left side, you divide by 10 and by 10, so that's the system of the decimal numeration system. Now we're going to talk about the decimal arithmetic. That means how are we going to deal with the 4 basic operations by using decimal numbers as addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. In this example of addition, we have to see that we have the columns of the tens, we have the columns of the ones and the tens, and we have the column for the tenths and the hundreds. and the decimal point is going to be a separator of the whole numbers and the decimal numbers. And as you can see, there are missing places like here and here that could be easily replaced by 0, which is not really necessary to be aligned, because we can complete it with zeros if necessary. There's no problem to do that. So we have to align only in terms of the decimal point. So we can put a 0 if it's needed. When it's needed, then we can follow adding these numbers. 0 and 4 makes 4, 8 plus 3 is going to be 11, and we take 1, it's going to be 6, and then we have the final answer as we're going to see in this example. There we go. No, the final answer is going to be 16, but we have a problem. We are missing the decimal point, so it could be wrong. So it's important to write the decimal point here, so the answer will be right 1. So that's very important. In this multiplication, we can assume that these numbers are whole numbers, 365 and 24. However, we know that these are decimal numbers, but we multiply as if they were whole numbers. And the operation of multiplication, when it's finished, is 8,760. But if we know that these numbers are decimals, then we have to remember that we have 3 decimal places to move. So if the decimal point is here, then we have 1, 2, and 3 places, and the final answer is going to be 8.760 thousandths. An example of a division. If we have a dividend like this, 12.64, that's divided by 4, we can see that 4 is a whole number. However, the dividend is a decimal number. So we proceed as if it's a regular division, like 12 divided by 4 equals, it's divided by 3. 3 times 4 is 12, so the remainder is 0. I download 6. 6 is divided by 1, so the remainder is 2. I lower 24, and 6 is going to be 6 times 4, 24, and the remainder is 0. But I have to remember that the decimal point should be placed in the same column as the decimal place is located. Otherwise, it will be very difficult, and it will be a mistake if I don't put the right place of the decimal point in this type of division. In some cases, divisions like this have a divisor as a decimal number and the dividend as a decimal number. And it becomes a little bit difficult to complete this procedure. So the idea is to have always a whole number in the divisor. What is the situation that we have to follow? Is that we have to move this decimal point here, the number of places that is required to have a whole number. In this case, 1.5 means that we have to move this decimal point 1 place. And if we move 1 place here, we also have to move 1 place here in the dividend. So 1.5 is changed to 15, and 6.45 becomes 64.5. That means that if you multiply the same number in the dividend, and they multiply the same number in the divisor, the number hasn't changed. It is the same as an equivalent number. That's why we can have this equal sign here. The only thing that we have to remember is that to see how many decimal places we're moving to the right side. And then we follow and do the division as we always do, like this. So finally, if we do the division, the only thing we have to be very careful is that we have to see that the decimal point should be placed in the same column as the division has been completed. And then we have finished all the division as usual, as we have a whole number in the divisor and a different decimal number in the dividend. That's why we can complete all the divisions with decimal numbers, which will not be very difficult to do, whatever number we need to use. Well, I hope with this explanation based in units and based a decimal point, which defines the decimal numbers, our explanation will be understood by you, and I hope that you have everything learned. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate and call me or write me your doubts that you have. Have a good day. God bless you.